All right, it's another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I am Josue alongside Cedric Maxwell. Plenty to get into. Celtics preseason training camp is almost over. Celtics 2-1. Plenty to say. I'm sure Max has plenty to say about that. But first things first, let's get into what's going on in out west with the Golden State Warriors, and that, of course, is the leaked footage. Compliments to TMZ and whoever leaked it, of course. Draymond Green, teammate Jordan Poole getting into it. And before things could even get into an actual fight, it looked like Draymond just punched him really bad, Max. We talked about it a lot the day it came out. But now the team has issued a statement. Draymond Green will stay away from the team, keep to himself, as he put it, work on himself, rather, as he put it. Wouldn't say exactly if he's going to see someone or talk to someone about this whole situation, but said that he will work on himself. And Max, what's your reaction here? I mean, it looks like no suspension, but we don't know exactly how long he's going to be away from the team.
Well, it's kind of funny, though, and you talked about leaked footage. When you said that, I start thinking in my mind, well, where's Josue at? Well, was he anywhere in the vicinity when they talk about? Because, we know how you are with the Draymond and me footage. You on top of that.
If it was the NBA Finals, maybe, Max, maybe. I don't know.
I didn't. You know what? Leaked footage is a whole nother thing, and somebody found a way to make some money. They always tape all the videos of practices. That's what they do. But then somebody turned around in the video room, and essentially, I heard Matt Barnes or somebody saying and maybe it was Perkins, saying they need to fire everybody in the video department because obviously you got the mold in there, and that kind of stuff shouldn't have really gotten out. And the punch is one thing, but the video is a whole nother thing. And it just goes to show me, when I talked before, we were talking about Ime Udoka and what happened, and I had a former player, a Celtic player, tell me that they should have just swept under the rug. I said the last secret in this world that I know of, that's when Osama bin Laden saw a gun pointed at him. That's the only time there's been a secret. Everything else right now is up for grabs. So you can't have secrets. You got to let it out. But in that case, to get the footage out on him, that was detrimental. And it's forced them, and it's forcing everybody to take a whole nother look at Draymond. If you said he punched him, that's one thing. But when you saw the video of the push by Jordan Poole, him coming up to Jordan Poole pushing him, and him leaning into that punch, that was a whole nother look for anybody in the NBA. And what does it do for Jordan Poole? I mean, you think about Josue. You've been out in the street before. When the guy gets hit and gets knocked down, everybody else is looking at him like, dude, whatever you got to say. And how are fans going to react when Jordan Poole is on the floor? What are they going to say? Start chanting out something? So I understand the situation, but I believe this. So many times we've seen it over and over again in sports, and I've seen guys have fights all the time in the NBA when I played. There was no big deal about it. It just went on to something else. Right. But the fact now that if he had broken that boy's jaw or whatever it was, that would have been a whole nother can of worms. Remember Bobby Portis, what he did when he was in Chicago. Right. Punched one of his teammates and broke his jaw. And he was out for the remainder of the year. So it was just kind of crazy looking at it that way. At first, it seemed like Golden State was saying, no big deal here, nothing to look at. But once the tape got out, it was a whole nother story.
Right. That changed everything. And, that's interesting because Steve Kerr said a lot of what you're saying right now. And that's, of course, how this thing got leaked. It should have stayed in-house. He said, and I quote, I've seen about 20 fistfights that have happened. And, of course, he can be talking as a player. He can be talking as a coach. I mean, he was a part of one, right? Everyone knows the story from the Last Dance of what happened to him and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan talking about he felt this big or this small when he did that. He felt terrible. He called him, apologized. Jordan told the whole story and everything. So, I mean, Steve Kerr, like he said, he's seen a lot. So for this to not remain in-house, he's furious. He's frustrated about it. But do you think that throughout after that press conference and everything, do you think maybe that frustration is misplaced a bit? I mean, he did express frustration about what Draymond did. He did express about, how he's going to have to spend time away from the team. But it seemed like the majority of the presser was about how this thing is leaked and how there's going to be a thorough investigation. And of course, Draymond Green appreciates that, and he said that throughout his press conference as well. But he was also very apologetic too. So I mean, you got to give him some credit for that. But of course, just seeing the video, and he talked about how we can't hear the audio. We don't know the context of the back and forth between them, what happened beforehand. It's only a 20-second video to what Draymond was saying. No one knows the full context of it. But again, seeing what you saw, you can't get past that.
I'll ask you this. How long was your video that you took of me and Draymond? How long was that video?
I showed the full context of it. I mean, I don't think I missed anything.
Yeah. So you were there for all that. And,
right.
I'm thinking back now, man, maybe I was lucky.
You see, yeah, exactly. Like this would be like if it was like a 5-second clip of Draymond just in your face and no one knows the context and people thinking, whoa, like, did he hit him? Did Max say something? Did he say something? But no, you got the full context of the video. But then again, even if there's no audio, so that you can get the full context of it, even if you were to show a 3-minute video with the fight being, at the end.
Josue, you got everything. And for our listeners and viewers right now, go back and see Josue's, infamous, Cedric Maxwell, Draymond.
Why has this got to be about that? Why? Well, because it is Draymond, but
because you're saying one is Draymond. And then 2, you're saying that you had the video and you had the audio. And even you went further and got me with E40.
You're making it sound like you punched Draymond in the face. Like it's a completely different altercation. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Essentially was what was going on was that I had said something about Draymond Green when it came down to what he was doing, his antics.
Well, you and Gary too.
And remember this, I said, well, if he had done that during the 80s, he got knocked the fuck out. Well, he got word of that. And he kind of just went, he went off, he went postal. And I was just saying, and then turned around and look, see what he does. And, I looked at another video and they actually showed Isaiah Thomas, formerly with the Celtics. And he said, man, he said, I don't care what it is, you don't punch your teammate like that. He said, dude on the street, yeah. And then he said, Jordan Poole, he said, you need to defend yourself. You need to have your hands up. But you don't think about that happening when you have a teammate coming at you in that way. You don't even look at it that way. And especially a
push like that too.
Especially a guy who's a star player. But you also have to identify the person that you're talking to, that he might be a little, Eddie Murphy had it one time, might be a little crazy, deranged, something on. And there, Draymond is stupid smart. That's what I'd call it. He's amazing when he focuses on, and then his brilliance, almost like Rondo. Rondo, same way, just brilliant, smart, brilliant, dumb. You get to the point where you go over the top, and then it's like, then you're trying to bring that person back. Rondo's my guy, and I've seen some of the things that he's said over the years, and it's like he's brilliant. But then sometimes it's just idiotic when you listen to some of the things that might be said. So for the team to say he's going to be away from practice for a couple of games, but what does that mean?
Well, not even. He just said just an X amount of time, like just away from the team. I mean,
go home. And but that is.
Well, they said a few days. They said a few days, but they didn't say a few games. They say a few
games. Coaches always say this. The worst thing you can do with any guy, a player, is to not let him play. And basketball is Draymond's identity. So for them to take that away from him, maybe it might be something different. But you're going to see there's going to be repercussions on what happened with that throughout the league when Draymond is in those situations.
Is there anything that someone can say that to cross the line to warrant that? Like, are you curious as to what the audio is since Draymond's mentioning it, and since no one has that part of it?
Everybody defended Jordan Poole though. Steve Kerr defended Jordan Poole. Say right. didn't do anything.
But I'm asking you, Max. I'm asking you. Like, is there anything that he could have said
that can be said?
That's deserving of that.
For me, no. There's not. But you're also asking the guy, you're talking to a guy who went in the stands in Philadelphia. So I don't know. There's a trigger point, I think, for everybody. Anybody, anything can be said, and there's a trigger point. And whatever he said, obviously, was a trigger point. I mean, the walking up on him, he thought about it, then came back to him, walked up on him, and then, Jordan Poole had pushed him out of the way, but Jordan Poole wasn't ready for the nuclear response. Right. I mean, Draymond leaned into that one. I mean, the back foot was off the ground. That's how he punched. He put all his body into that. And that's when you can really hurt a guy with those kind of punches.
How does this team move forward from this? I mean, Steve Kerr was flat out asked, has the trust been compromised? When you think about what's happened in the past, Draymond getting himself in trouble, Draymond getting himself suspended during the NBA Finals for kicking someone where you're never supposed to kick them. I mean, and Steve Kerr's response was no comment. He couldn't flat out say if the trust has been compromised or not.
I don't, you know what? I think you look at what Draymond Green has done over the years. If trust wasn't compromised then, how's trust compromised now? If you get kicked out of an NBA Finals game and everybody say, oh, we would have won it if Draymond would have been playing, and you get kicked out of that game, trust was compromised at that time. Some of the
but you would say it was regained, after that.
How you regain it? You
win the championship, Max. They're coming off a championship.
You never regain trust. There's always a limitation when you look at somebody. It's like if you had a dog that bit you, you would never trust that dog again. You'd be like, yeah. Hey,
no, you just don't forget. You could trust it again.
But you always gonna keep a leery eye on that person. And I think that was the same thing that happened with the Ime situation. Trust was eroded. Trust was compromised. And so the Celtics decided that they had to make a move because of that.
You think he was asked to stop whatever he was doing? You think that part of that report is true?
I don't know enough about it to comment on it, and I won't. All I know is that it was a situation that the Celtics felt that they had to make a move. And for the most part, it seems like everybody else is saying, well, they did their due diligence. They did their homework. They talked to Ime. And the biggest thing, everybody can say whatever they want to say. Ime agreed to have this suspension done, or he could have fought it. And he didn't fight it.
Yeah, and that's true.
Why wouldn't he fight it, Josue? We're in the street right now. Somebody came up to you and said you did something and you didn't do it. Would you fight it? And probably. Most brothers we know would say, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But if they got video of you,
give me where the receipts, right? Where the receipts?
Like, yeah, that's your thing, Josue, in the street. Where the receipts at? Well, show me what happened. So that would be my take on that.
That's my thing. Receipts my thing. All right.
Yeah, that's true. Thing. I guess that's true. You're good with that. So
hey, we're reporters, man. We gotta have receipts. It's important. It's a big part of this thing. The Celtics, though, man, they're looking pretty good throughout this preseason. I mean, I know it's preseason, as we always say here, at this time of the year, but with everything going on, you have to say, man, this team is looking pretty damn good. Just from the very beginning. And one of the bright stars from this game, from this team, it's got to be, of course, Jaylen Brown, his hot start, but also it's Sam Hauser. Man, this guy is on a tear right now, Max. He was top 5 scores in the NBA for a little bit there, and right now he's not showing any signs of slowing down. Knocking down the 3-point, knocking down those shots. Yeah,
Sam Hauser is a shooter. He's a scorer. The only thing you're gonna have to worry about now, can you insulate him on the defensive end? That is going to be the key. Can he stay on the floor defensively long enough that he's not a liability? But if you think about Duncan Robinson down in Miami, one of the best shooters out there. But when
I knew everyone was going to compare it to him. I knew.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a great comparison because he's a great 3-point shooter. But defensively,
I thought because you're going to say because he's white.
No. No, one of our, it was funny.
He's a white shooter.
One of our listeners on our podcast said that about me. He said, Max, he always brings up race. What does that mean? That means, let me break it down so everybody understands this. When somebody says that to you, that means they're white.
Yeah, that's true. About 90% of the time, I can't.
No, it's no 90% of the time.
It is always 100. That's 100%.
100% of the time, that's a white guy who would never.
Never gonna hear a black dude being like, "Yo, why you gotta make things about race?"
Yeah. It's like a white guy would say, "You're always bringing up race." Okay. Possibly because you've never walked in anybody's shoes like that to understand that most things are.
You've never had to really think about that.
Are racial in context.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you want to get into me like that, like, dude, really? Is that what you said? So for you to say that for me, that just reminded me of looking at some of the comments. And I appreciate the fact that he would take his time to listen to us, but also understand that if you say that to me, then I already know where you're coming from, and I know who you are.
Right.
You say I
would never say that though. I would never be like, you make everything about race.
well, that's what he said, but I'm just saying, and you're saying to me, I just say, 90% of the time he's white. Hell no.
I thought about it. I was like, yeah.
Hundo. You want? Let's get our line real quick. 100.
It's 100. 100%.
100%. But we do appreciate the fact that he listened to us and he subscribed.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate all our listeners. But that's funny he said that though. But yeah. But go ahead. Go ahead. Go back to your comparison.
Well, Duncan
Robinson.
Well, Duncan Robinson is a guy who can shoot the heck out of the ball. Miami gave him about $20 million a year. And then all of a sudden they put him on the bench because he's a defensive liability. Teams hunted him down. So your offense better be extraordinary. If you're going to stay in the lineup and if you're that much of a liability. Do I think Sam Hauser is that much of a liability? I don't know. I haven't seen him enough defensively, but if I looked at him, I would judge watching him.
He held his own. I think he
hustles. I think he hustles. He busts his arm, but I think he's limited in his scope with his foot speed. He's slower. So sometimes teams hunt you down.
Yeah, that's true. But if he can remain consistent on that part of the floor, especially in that second unit, he could be a threat. He could be a weapon for the Celtics moving forward for sure, man. I think this is legitimate. Yeah,
I think he is. He's a legitimate shooter. There's nothing about him that is bogus when it comes to his shot. I can't wait to see a little bit more of Marcus. One thing that happened the other day.
How about Malcolm? We got to talk about him too.
Yeah, Malcolm is good. But one thing I want to touch on, and this is the Ime effect, which I want to see down the line. I remember talking to Ime Udoka about Marcus Smart. And there are times when Marcus, it was in the exhibition game. Marcus had a layup and then came down and wanted to do an N1 and throw an alley-oop to somebody behind him. And two guys collided and the ball goes out of bounds. Ime Udoka told me, I said, how do you deal with that with Marcus? He said, I told Marcus, I give you one of those a game. After that, no more.
No more, yeah.
That is one of the effects that I want to see. How is that going to manifest itself? When you think about Ime not being there, his relationship with Tatum, his relationship with Brown, away from everything else, I'm just talking about the basketball side of it. That is one thing that I want to see if the Celtics can conjure up somebody who's going to have that leadership role when it comes to Tatum and Brown and Smart.
Yeah, especially with late game execution. But I think someone like Malcolm Brogdon can help out with that. It could be that voice of reason and be that guy that says, hey, look, I know I haven't been here that long, but I'm trying to win a championship, and I think he's earned that respect in that regard just from his playing career itself. And I love what he had to say about him and Marcus Smart being the best defensive backcourt and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm with you, Max, especially when it comes down to the late game execution. How's Joe Mazzulla going to approach things? Who gets the ball down the stretch? If Tatum is hot, if Jaylen Brown is on this tear that he's been on right now, that carries over, which I think it will. I think there's a lot to be said about that, Max. Jaylen's going to go into the season. He's really focused right now. He's dialed in. I feel like he's looking like he's trying to be the top guy in the Celtics. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I really don't. I just think that he's just going to really spread his wings this season and have a great start.
You're right about that. Let's not get it
too, right?
Let's not get it confused. The better Jaylen is, the more he's going to push Tatum. And I think that's a good thing for this team.
That's a great way to look at it.
Competition, but it's always that alpha guy staying ahead of the other guy. And that competition sometimes can wear on you, but sometimes can make you grow. Hopefully, in this situation, that will make them both grow even better as players.
I can't wait for it, man. I can't wait to see them play the real games. The ones that, don't get me wrong. I like seeing what the second unit looks like right now, but I think we're about ready to see what this team is made of. But there's some other guys that stood out to me as well. I like Noah Vonleh right now. I think he can maybe carve out a role right now with Robert Williams out, with Luke Cornett. It looks like he may need another week or so. So I like the way he's progressed here, and I think he could actually get some minutes.
Well, the guy who was more interested in me was Blake Griffin, and watching him in limited.
What'd you think of Blake? Yeah,
I did. I like what he brought to the table. He is not the leaper over a car anymore, a Kia, whatever it is. He's not doing that.
Right.
But his basketball IQ for what he brings to this team, I think is going to be good. Remember this, what people have said. He led the league in taking charges. And because of that, you have Marcus Smart taking charges, Brogdon taking charges, Blake Griffin taking charges. That's another weapon on the defensive end when guys drive towards the basket. Right. So his watching them shooting, he's going to be a spot shooter. But I think he's reliable enough spot shooter from the 3-point line that he can keep people honest. So yeah, I like I love his basketball IQ and what he brings to the table right now.
Yeah, he's also a good passer. I think that's another part of this too.
He understands. Blake Griffin understands the complete package when it comes to playing the game, and that I love about him.
And finally, Max, what's your take on the head coach, on the interim head coach, the youngest coach in the NBA right now, Joe Mazzulla? What do you think so far?
Still learning. It's a still learning process for him. His relationship with the players. It's really funny when you move. People say we move over sitting on the front of the bench. He was behind the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
So his advance where he is now is stupid crazy. To go from being behind the bench to looking at him as a video guy, should we challenge? I think he was the guy who had the video in his hand, the iPad in his hand, see if we should challenge or not. Now he's gone from to being making all the decisions. That to me is an amazing leap. And I think right now it's still incomplete. He holds himself with a lot of posture and character. I like that. I don't know. How about the fire? I haven't seen that yet. The fire in the belly. You challenge a referee with a call.
Or on the team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be that point where you have to, crack the whip. It's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
So if I was giving Joe Mazzulla something right now, I said it would be a incomplete, something that Josue used to get a lot of times with his papers when he was at Metco.
Wow.
Like I'm just tossing out there, bro.
What a way to just throw a shot at me for no particular reason. All right, cool.
Lob a hand grenade if you can.
I had a couple of incompletes in my day. I mean, I'm not saying grade the guy. I just wanted to hear what do you think so far? Because
there's nothing really, again, I haven't seen enough. I'm looking at the players. I'm looking at their plays. They look fundamentally kind of the same. ISO'd and, pushing the basketball. But I'm just trying to see, when you always look to see a mark that a coach has on a team. What mark is he going to put on this? What imprint is he going to put on this team? I think that's going to be huge.
You know what's a good sign? A good sign is when someone who's only been there for about 24 hours is asked about it. And he's like, man, this guy, he's a great combination of funny, and he's so intellectual, and he's got everyone that's locked in and wants to hustle for him. And you're seeing how everyone around the locker room is joking around, and Blake is just fitting right into that. He's been the guy who's just been joking around and stuff, and also knowing how serious things are and how the goal is, and he knows what's going on. Obviously, he's seen what's been happening the last few weeks, but he's like, man, it seems like nothing's even happening. Like everything is smooth right now, and I love this coach so far, even though I haven't been here that long.
Yeah, there again. I'm going to say it again. I haven't seen enough to judge Joe in any kind of way. So I'll get a chance, and Celtic Nation to get a chance to see what this team does when it hits those really rough patches, when we know they're going to come. It's not like you don't know. No, it's going to. You're going to hit some of those rough patches right now. You are coming into a situation where you have your safety valve, and you have taken a lot of the pressure off this team by going to you, and now they're putting it in your hands. So we'll see how he deals with that. Again, I haven't had a chance. I'm sure we're going to have a chance to speak to him on air. I haven't even done that yet. So I'm kind of excited. I'm excited for him, optimistically.
Are you going to give him the Max pep talk or not?
I don't do that. Max doesn't give pep talks like this.
So you didn't give Ime the Max pep talk?
No, what pep talks? No, those aren't. I don't.
Wow.
No, I never have. But that is.
Why not? The OG. Your number's in the rafters, for crying.
That was for guys like Tommy Heinz, who would bring the coach over and they'd sit down and they'd talk. And that's just not my personality.
I remember Tommy used to do that with Marcus. I like that.
Yeah. If they ask me a question, then I'll give them my input. But I'm not volunteering my services saying, hey, you should do this and do that. Last time I said something like that is when I did my commercial, and it said, in my days, you'd be knocked up, blank out. So that was the only input I gave to a player. So I don't even know what else to say.
I think that was the explicit version of that video lasted about a good 13 hours online, I think.
Yeah, people loved it. They're like, oh my God, your video. And the guy it's really funny. He wants to do some kind of Halloween video with me. So I can imagine what that's like.
It's that time of year, man. The leaves are falling, It's good.
It's that time, boy. Yes, it is.
All right, Max. How's that? Before we get up out of here, man, how's Charlotte? I know you're happy to be
great,
home right
man.
now.
You're looking behind me now. You see the few white clouds behind
nice
me.
Sunny day.
I've been popping in now the sun, but beautiful down here. I'll be down here for the next week before I get ready to come back to Boston. I think I have an autograph signing next Sunday in Boston. And then getting ready for that first game with Philly. Yeah, I'm excited. The Montreal game, radio is not covering it. So that's going to be kind of it for me.
There you go. All right. That's right. Last preseason game is coming up this upcoming Friday. And then it's the opening of the regular season, man. I cannot wait. Like I've been saying this entire episode. But the Celtics look good. We'll see what happens with the Draymond Warriors situation. We'll keep you posted, of course. Follow us. Subscribe. Give us a review. Come on. Hook us up, guys. If you haven't already, the Cedric Maxwell podcast, we really appreciate it, man. But until then, until next week, guys.
What do we do?
We're gonna keep it 100.
We keep it on the damn 100.
Keep it on 100.
We're gonna tell you exactly how we feel. Even if you do say, well, Max, it's always about race. I'm gonna still keep it on the 100.
Because he keeps it 100. That's why it's about race, David. That's right. That's right.
All right, bro.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.